It was good, everybody. I had just made that 411 video, but it was raining a little harder, so I decided to make this one from the car. It's nice though, right here. It's beautiful outside. But I'll just make it in here. So, anyways, I wanted to talk about the reason I'm doing that audiobook. It's by Arthur Ford. It's called Unknown But Known, and it's probably one of the best books on like psychics and mediums that. Well, back then, right? I read it. You know, I don't know. It's probably been over. I don't know, over a decade at least. But at the time, well, I was pre Google, pre YouTube. So when I read it, uh, there was none of that, right? No Google, no YouTube. So there was no place for me to search for other information about like mediums, psychics. Everything was books, right? Word of mouth or books, and there wasn't a whole lot of word of mouth. So about that kind of stuff. So books it was, right? And a friend happened to let me borrow it. Like I think I had gone over to work on music, and I don't know who brought up the spiritual stuff. Maybe me, maybe who knows. But he was like, I guess his mom had gave it to him or something, and so he let me borrow it, and I still gotta return it because I had it all that. But I still talk to this friend, so maybe I'll now maybe I'll return it. Maybe after I finish these the audiobooks. I'm barely uploaded 2 chapters, and even those 2 chapters already reminded me about a lot of stuff. Um, but yeah, at the time, he was like the most known psychic. I guess we didn't hear of him in this time because that book was published in 1968. I forgot when he passed away. I'm sure he passed away before I was even born and all that stuff. So, but anyway, so yeah, that's why I'm uploading that one. You could tell the difference. See, like I want to upload also things like it's obviously for more of a like, at one point he was like or he was even when he died a pastor or a preacher or something. But he was even kicked out of his church where they said like, oh, this guy's surely gone in the wrong direction. I guess because he started delving into the psychic stuff, right? He said I think the first time it was like around when he was 22, which is funny because even my friend Trish, like if you guys saw the In a Good Way podcast episode, the first one I did, where she talks about when she was 22. 22 is a very significant number. Look it up if you don't know what it means. But 22 always catches my attention. The one I did with my friend Trish, like she talked about that. She started at 22, and then I actually happened to upload the video on March 22 of 2022. So I was just like, that's crazy, so many 22s. And then I think this guy too. Don't quote me, but I'll look it up. I'm almost sure because I already uploaded the first chapter that he was 22 when he first started having like the psychic visions. But anyways, it was like he decided that if you have something, like I guess he quoted someone like if you have something, you might as well develop it, or like what are you supposed to do with it, like. And that's kind of what happened to me too. Like that's why I got into stuff. Like as I kept having, I started having premonitions, and it was so exact. Like it was insane. Like even yesterday, I had like it happened while I was awake. And then later when it happened, I was like, it still is mind blowing. It's like, how is it even possible? Like, how can you see the future so exact then it happens? And it still weirds me out to this day. But that's how I started. Like decades ago when I started my path. Like that's how I started because I noticed things were happening, right? Um, and so yeah, he has kind of a similar story in that. However, it is different. Like I guess in the ways that it's done. Like I said, his has the bias of like coming from a Christian guy, even though his own church like at one point right outed him, like it's kind of like what is it called when you're excommunicated kind of thing. Even though he was Christian, I know that's more of a Catholic word, but it's kind of shunned from the whole church thing for doing that. And and I guess that's what you face in that. But it happened, so it's like, how do you deny something that's happening? So he kept going with it, right? So anyways, that's why I'm uploading that book, and then I'll upload stuff like from the indigenous standpoint. See, because to us, it's like in indigenous culture, there is no need to search because it was part of everyday life, right? Like, and that's what happened to me. Once I was around like more native people, I felt more comfortable. It was like it was no secret, right? Like oh, I had this vision, this and that, and it's like, oh, like cool, like no one looked at you like prove it, or like, yeah, like, I mean, some actually did, which was surprising, but not the majority, right? Like the majority actually understood, like, if not, then what are you doing there, right? We're in ceremony, we're this and that, like that's part of the culture. So so if someone did look at you like, I mean, sometimes it felt more like jealousy, because I even was in situations where I saw like an elder like kind of say something, or elders say stuff that made me feel like, damn, like why would they react like that? Like, are they jealous? Like, they even said something like, well, I haven't had no like visions like you, or stuff like that. So those kind of things were always disappointing. But that's what I noticed about reading this book. It's kind of like it's part of, like, I guess, in the way he, like, from a Western standpoint, I guess there's no really other way to say it, because I don't want to just say it like from a white standpoint, right? Because it's not about just that. It's about a Western like ideology. Because there's people today that are native that have a Western ideology, so it has nothing to do with that. But anyone that is in touch with like the indigenous ways or roots, you know, at least not even fully, but just a basic understanding, knows that this was part of the culture, right? Like like it was no secret to live, like you have one foot in the regular world, one foot in the spirit world. And I guess for him, but see, in his search, because I guess he needed to understand from a Western kind of perspective, he dig deep. So it's one of the deepest books I've read on someone really trying to understand uh, the whole thing, like the psychic world, right, or spirit world. But also, like, I noticed, like, he talks about, he always had like a go between, right? Like when I will communicate, it almost feels like it's just directly with the spirit world. But from him, like, I don't know, there's always like what they call controls, right? There's always a middle person that kind of talks, brings them the messages from the spirit world in that way. Um, so it's interesting. Not that I've had people like different situations, probably ancestors that passed away or different things, or even people that I didn't even know kind of bring me messages. But like when they describe like the seances, it's like they would let these people even like take control of their bodies or different stuff like that, which is interesting to me, because it happens to be a very common theme in a Western kind of, or in those times of like seances and all that stuff, right? Like allowing, and for me, I would never like feel comfortable doing that, right? So, and I guess I'm lucky I've never had to. Like everything just like I tap in, and the answers are there, right? So I don't know. Like I guess there is what I guess in modern terms spirit guides, right? Like I guess those are like what I would call ancestors, or different, like, spiritual beings that come to help and give messages, right? But I don't know. So I'm just trying to point out that it is a different perspective. Like I guess if you're indigenous or that like follow more traditional ways, it would be different. But I guess that's why I'm making this, so we could all understand each other, right? So I'm still gonna finish the book. Hopefully, I don't know how long it's gonna take, because it's very time consuming to be doing an audiobook. But there's some very great information in there, and he was a legit psychic. I guess the most known at his time. Even so, I'll just say this and then I'll end it. When I started telling my dad about my abilities and everything, I would be like, oh, this and this happened. And, they would bring up that, like, oh, Houdini, who, I mean, well, before everyone knew who Houdini was, right? He was the most famous magician. And, like, back then, now, you have all these other David Blaine and whoever these other people are that are on TV. But back then, Houdini was, like, the most famous magician, right? I'm sure they've even made movies about him. But anyways, my dad said that, oh, well, even Houdini disproved mediums, right? That him and his wife came up with a code, so whoever died they would go to a medium, and then if they didn't give that code, then it was proof that it was all BS, right? And so they did. They exposed a lot of mediums, but then this guy, Arthur Ford, he was the one that actually cracked the code. So when this book fell on my lap, I showed my dad, like, look, like, this is what you were saying. Like, this guy did crack the code. So I guess he never read that part. Like, he was always told about, oh yeah, like this guy disproved that mediums, this and that. But so I was able to be like, well, look, this guy actually broke the code. His wife agree. Like his wife was like, yeah, that's the code that me and my husband came up with. It was very like distinct. Um, and yeah, so they showed that, and that made him more famous, so like overnight, pretty much. But then there was another case where I guess he was able to communicate this guy's dead son. I don't know if he was like a famous priest or something. I don't know. I have to read it. I uploaded the two first chapters, so you guys could check them out. But that's why I'm doing it, because it's one of the best books on. Even though it has a different perspective, like I said, more. You'll still. I think anyone will still get something out of it. It's an amazing book. You know. You know. But you could even tell, like, see, like, there's a part where it talks about like he's naming all these different peoples, and he even talks about like the primitive people, and I don't know if he meant like indigenous people by saying primitive people. And it's like, dude, like, I don't know, to them it was like, and still to this day, right, like, to them all this material stuff, it's like that gave them value. But spiritually, spiritually, all like indigenous people were always, if you want to accumulate, like, if you want to say that's wealth, like, you know light years beyond what this world had to catch up. That's why everything's so messed up, right? Because they went in another direction. And but spiritually, not just spiritually, but even that, like, the intelligence that indigenous people had, and all the people former, right, like the architecture and mathematics and astrologers and everything that and then even just that, like, understanding like the spirit world. Like I said, like, when things happen to me, I'm still like blown away. But I'm sure there's a scientific explanation. You know what I mean? Like a normal like it's just a part of life. Like somehow it is like, because when I see stuff, it's like, well, then how does that even happen? Like this, I guess it's that, like, time doesn't exist, and somehow I'm able to tap into that, like, where you could see things before they happen. Then how is that possible? Is it because they already existed in another time and space? Is it like, then that means it had to have already existed for me to even see it. How could I see something? See, that's just my brain, right? Like, that's how my brain will be trying to figure things out. Like, well, how could I have seen it? How can I be shown this thing? It's almost like a movie, right? Being shown a screen, and you're watching this, and then when it happens later, it's like, how did I see this? Like, what did I tap into? Did I tap into like the great movie in the sky or in the spirit world, that you see everything already? Like, you can see it because it's already happened. It already happened in some dimension or some reality. It already happened, or something. Or just like, if you fold time and space on itself, well, then it already happened, right? I know that's probably a little deep, but I mean, you know, that's whatever. I'll end it with that, because yeah, then I'm gonna be over here sitting for like a few hours in the mountains trying to figure out that. But it doesn't really matter to me, because it just happened. So I guess at that point, it's like, well, who cares? I guess not that who cares. Like, I mean, it's important, I'm sure, but why? Why? Like, why, if it already happened? Then it's strange. Okay, that's it. So go check it out if you want to listen to those audiobooks. I'm gonna try to upload more, and that's it. Did I leave anything out? I'll upload some indigenous ones too. The one of the best ones is "The World We Used to Live In" by Vine Deloria Jr. I think that's the name of the book. The World We Used to Live In, and that one has so many examples of native people experiencing like things with the spirit world, including Black Elk Speaks as well. And they even have excerpts from that inside that book, The World We Used to Live In. So Black Elk Speaks or The World We Used to Live In are great books if you want to, if you want to see some indigenous documentation of all these things. And in that Arthur Ford books, he goes a lot into the Bible. That's what I'm saying. You could tell there's a bias to it, like but not like a negative bias, but just like that's what he was familiar with. So he starts showing all the examples in the Bible, like into like those, like they would have been called psychics, right? But like, because I said that once, there was this Christian woman that she was clearly psychic, right? But when I called her that, she was like she was so scared of me calling her a psychic. But then we would be called prophets, and people that see things and stuff. Then okay, then she was a prophet. But I don't know if she'd be okay with that, or it'd be, oh no no, like the church has probably brainwashed people to be like, oh no, if you call yourself a prophet, like that's blasphemy or something, right? But I remember, this Christian girl that was like really psychic, like she had a really strong gift, has a strong gift because obviously, right, she's still breathing, so she has a really really strong gift, but like you could tell she's so stuck in the dogma that it was like, oh, me calling her psychic was like, I don't like that word. I think she literally said, I don't like that word or something. I was like, all right, cool. Then I don't know, I'll just say the gift or something. And so that was an interesting experience, right? Okay, so I think I've said enough, and that's it. I'll upload this. I don't know if I am, but I think I am, just because it went really long. I think I kind of went all over the place, but yeah, check out those Arthur Ford. I have 2 chapters up so far. If you're driving or walking or something, you could pop. Just listen to them real quick. I think one's like 20 minutes. The other chapter's like 17. So yeah, but I'll try to upload more, and that's it. All right, peace.